I'm absolutely sure that Guangdong can be a role model for the rest of China, but indeed for the rest of the world, because it's maybe the most dynamic economic area, maybe the most high-tech area, with a very, very high quality of life, but then also people can go into the environment field. So it's absolutely essential that China deepens and continue this development. And the rest of the world, frankly, should say yes, thank you to China, because you drive also economic growth and development.
Erik, thank you for your time to attending our show. What's the main purpose for your visit this time?
That's to strengthen the relationship between China and outside world, maybe particularly the West, on environment issues. I will speak at a number of universities in many parts of China, visit some of the main green businesses of China, and speak to official leaders, think tanks, students, top leaders, whoever on environment issues.
You visited Xiamen and now you are in Guangzhou. Both cities are near the sea. So I think protecting marine ecosystem is their main tasks. So do you think how to protect the marine system?
Wetland with mangroves here in Guangdong, because protecting mangroves is one of the most important of all ecosystems to conserve. It's critical to combat climate change, but also very important to defend people against big storms and waves coming from the ocean. So we need to do much better to protect mangroves. And China now setting up a mangrove protection center in Shenzhen, reaching out with its own experience to the world, but possibly also learning from other nations which are protecting mangroves. I'm advisor to the president of Sri Lanka, and he's very, very eager to protect the mangroves of Sri Lanka. And India, some of the state governments are really moving on mangroves protection. So here's a very good and important area for global cooperation, but I'm sure China will take a lead role.
There are many mangrove forests in China. Why mangrove forests are so important?
Because they stock a lot of carbon, so it's very, very important for climate change. Mangroves stock more than many tree species at land, because they protect people against waves and storms and cyclones coming from the ocean. It's a very, very good protection. If there are mangroves, very few people tend to be killed if there is a major weather event. And it's of course also a beautiful area where there are lots of birds, fishes, a very vibrant wildlife.
Do you think how to balance the marine economy development and the marine ecosystem protection?
Absolutely, but of course the good news is that now we do have all the technologies and finances and policies we do need for the win-win policies. Good for economy, good for ecology. In the past, in the 20th century, if you wanted to develop, it had to be based on coal. There was no alternative. And there had to be quite a substantial amount of ecological destruction, otherwise you could not get everyone out of poverty and bring a big middle class. But now it's very different. Solar and wind energy are the cheapest energies anywhere in the world, and we know how to develop without destroying mangroves or wetlands or rainforests. So I'm very optimistic that in this century we will find not just a balance, but the win-win policies which create jobs, but also protect Mother Earth.
In your opinion, how to further protect our sea, our ocean?
Some very important issues is to get the real good planning for the coast. In Norway, I think we can proudly say that we have done this very, very well. We have comprehensive protection plans for all areas of the Norwegian coast, including everything: tourism, fisheries, oil and gas exploitation, protecting of the reefs, protecting of the species, everything into one plan, so that we can, yes, economically prosper, but protect the oceans much better. And of course, China is absolutely central here. 7 out of the 10 biggest ports in the world are in China. So going into green shipping, where the ship carriers are based on green hydrogen or other green ammonia, green fuel, much less emissions, The ports are remade so that they're much more efficient and green. Hawei from Guangdong province is just setting up an experimental port in Tianjin to see how we can use high tech to do this better. So yes, protect the species along the coast through planning and go into green use of the great oceans. By the way, carrying something through the oceans is much, much better than carrying it in the air or some other means of transportation, because it has the least use of energy and the least emissions of any mode of transportation. But it must be much better. No fossil fuels in with green hydrogen, or for many carriers also electric boats.
For governors, what should they do to balance the economy and the ocean protection?
Governments should set the direction. Lucid waters and lush mountains are like gold and silver, telling the Chinese people that yes, we can develop, but we can also protect the beauty of China. Beautiful China is another slogan which really emphasizes the same. So governments need to set the direction and regulate the markets, inspire people. But then, of course, every individual needs to act in our own life. Can I go bicycling more and maybe a little less go by car? Can I turn a little bit more to a vegetarian diet? Can I start doing tree planting? Can I put solar panels on the roof of my farmhouse? It's a lot individuals can do. And at the end, the big transformation will come from business, because on the business have the capacity to take change to scale, to provide the jobs, the new technologies, merge the financial technology, the fintech, the high tech, which is so important here in Guangdong, with energy and environment.
Let's move to green. Guangdong has launched the Green and Beautiful Guangdong campaign, which promoted the ecological construction. How do you comment on this campaign?
I think it's a very, very good movement. So fits into the larger picture of China. That change has come. China has brought down pollution. But with that, China has also taken upon a huge number of other environment issues, protecting the Yangtze River, protecting some of the deserts, cleaning up rivers, and being the biggest tree planter in the world.
Could Guangdong be a role model of green development for the rest of the world?
I'm absolutely sure that Guangdong can be a role model for the rest of China, but indeed for the rest of the world, because it's maybe the most dynamic economic area, maybe the most high-tech area, with a very, very high quality of life, but then also people can go into the environment field. For example, Guangdong has some of the highest penetration of electric cars, electric buses. I mean, Shenzhen, Guangzhou are run basically now by electric cars. Guangdong has some of the best metro systems in the world, both in Guangzhou and in Shenzhen and other cities. And more, Guangdong is stepping up, protecting the mangroves and also the forest of Guangdong. So yes, indeed, Guangdong can be a world leader.
Green is important for China. How do you comment on China's achievements on green development in the past few decades?
It has been amazing achievement, but mainly in the last 10 years. Because in the first years of opening up on reforms, the focus was very much on just driving the economy. That was immensely successful. But now focus has shifted into what the leadership calls high quality growth, which is of course very different. That's still high growth, but you do it in such a way that it's people friendly, improving the lives of people, making the cities greener and more beautiful. And China is now a world leader, both in reducing pollution, in combating climate change, but also in protecting nature. In Sichuan, for instance, the giant panda population is increasing very fast, thanks to brilliant conservation efforts in Sichuan. Snow leopards in western China and towards the deserts and the mountains also increasing, again thanks to good protection efforts. So China is now not just leading the world in technology. I mean, we all know that China is a leader on solar and wind and hydropower, but it's also more and more a leader on nature conservation.
Looking forward, what else can China do on green development?
China can also engage with other nations in the world to work together to exchange views and lessons learned. Belt and Road, by the way, which is 10-year anniversary this year, is also a fantastic platform for China to invest in other parts of the world. China has built some of the most amazing railroads in Kenya and Ethiopia, just newly opened Laos, China Railroad in Thailand and Malaysia. There are railroads under construction. So China can invest in green developments in other parts of the world, but also establish people-to-people's contact. Some of the most amazing green programs in the world has been in China in the last few years. An example, the Zhejiang Rural Development Program, which has really wiped out pollution in Zhejiang, or tree planting in Saihamba in Hebei or in Kubuchi in Mongolia. All these are first-class green development, which China can use to inspire the world to do better.
As you mentioned, exchange is very important. So what should the international community do on green development?
Because overall, there are huge developments everywhere. Let me mention India, which is, of course, many years behind China in economic development. But Prime Minister Modi is now drastically taking India in a green direction. Economic growth in India is now high, and is launching green hydrogen mission, electric battery mission, electric vehicle mission, all these to take India into a green future. Mm-hmm. At the same time, fighting poverty and getting jobs. In the United States, the Inflation Reduction Act is a very green document, made massive subsidies for green developments. In Europe, we have the European Green New Deal. China, US, Europe, and India are now going green at fast speed. We have formed also the Global Coalition for the Green Belt and Road, and that's about using Belt and Road as a vehicle for investment and people-to-people's contact for a green global development. For example, in Indonesia, which is one of the biggest, most populous and most rapidly improving countries in the world, benefits tremendously from Chinese rail investments and Chinese energy investments in going green.
China's just expanding, opening up. What does China's commitment mean to global economy?
The opening of China in around 1980 was probably the most significant economic development in the entire world in the last century. Before that, China was very poor. I visited China in the early 1980s. No high-speed rail, nothing of what we see in the prosperous, rapidly moving, dynamic, people-friendly China of today. So that came with the reform and opening up. So it's absolutely essential that China deepens and continue this development. And the rest of the world, frankly, should say yes, thank you to China, because you drive also economic growth and development, the rise of China. But we should all applaud. This is good for China, for sure, but it's also very, very good for the rest of the world.
How will China's high-level opening up affect the world?
It is a major driver of the economic recovery of the entire world. Not just China, by the way, Asia at all, India, Indonesia is now the main drivers of economic recovery. And they can have a very important role in creating markets for other nations, in investing in other nations, trading with other nations, and indeed it will benefit everyone else in the world also.
Mm-hmm. Guangdong is a pioneer of China's opening up. Do you think Guangdong is attractive for foreign investors? Absolutely.
I mean, Guangdong was front and center for the opening up of China. So Guangdong has a great story to tell as the front and center of Chinese development. Yes, true, Jiangsu is also, and Zhejiang are also now moving very, very fast, but Guangdong is central to this. And it has a very good location, close to Singapore, close to Southeast Asia. So I think Guangdong will remain in the front seat in Chinese economic development. And it will be a very, very attractive place for foreign investment. added weather and is very good here. Nature is very good here. So it's very, very attractive place for people also to live.
Mm-hmm. How do you think about the future of Guangdong and the Great Bay Area?
I think we will see the Greater Bay Area and Guangdong becoming a world-leading economic power, very prosperous, very green in the decades to come. Already, the economy of Guangdong is among the five. I said just Guangdong is among the 10 biggest economies in the entire world, and Guangdong will remain and strengthen that position. But it will also increasingly go green. And this province has some of the most fantastic technological companies in the world. Huawei, DJI, which has 80% of the global market for drones, Tencent, many others. And all these companies can drive global green development. Added also international companies, Indonesian RGE, which is the biggest paper and pulp company in the world, set up the biggest paper mill in the world here in Guangdong, and it's a very, very green mill.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much, Erik. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.